Hello, everyone. This is Kamama Hako. Welcome to Somebody's Got to Do It. I have a very interesting guest this morning, and she's going to be telling us about what she does for a living. Her name is Katrina Ifill. Welcome, Katrina.
Very well. Thank you so very much for having me. Come on, it was a pleasure.
Yes, the pleasure is mine. And Katrina describes herself as a sensual empowerment leader, holistic intimacy coach, women's pelvic health coach, massage therapist and communication specialist, and the skate coach. That's an awful lot of things. I don't know how someone gets the time to do all of that, but I want you to tell us about each and every one of those things, Katrina, starting with sensual empowerment leader. What is that?
So, as a sensual empowerment leader, I am also the creatrix of a system called Orgasmic Intelligence. And so, on the Orgasmic Intelligence, that's where the hat of sensual empowerment leader falls under. And as a sensual empowerment leader, I help my clients to empower themselves through using their senses. So, sensual. So using your senses, that is your seven senses and your sexual energy to heal and empower yourself. So that is in a nutshell, what a sensual empowerment leader does.
And this is for both males and females.
Yes, correct. Both
Okay.
men and women.
Is it an adult only kind of thing, or do you work with adolescents as well? Do you work with children?
Oh yeah, if I work with adolescents with the parents or guardians' permission.
Okay.
It's very hot here, so permit me if I'm dabbing.
Oh, that's absolutely
Yeah.
fine. And where are you, Katrina? Tell us where you're
I'm,
from and where you are right now.
I'm in the sunny island of Barbados.
Yeah, you're a Caribbean girl.
Yes, definitely. And those
Yes.
who don't know, Barbados is not Jamaica. Okay, it's the home island of Rihanna,
Yes.
superstar
Yeah.
Rihanna. Yes,
Mhm.
most people will get it when I say that.
So
Permit
you're
me. Let me
a
just go and get
Barbadian.
my fan. Can I just step away
Absolutely.
one
Go
second
and
to
do
get my
that.
fan? One
Absolutely.
second. Get my handheld fan so that I can stay cool because I can see myself glistening on the
Yeah.
camera. Yeah,
If you want to open up the window, anything you want to do to be comfortable.
the window
Are you
is
good?
open.
It's open. Yes. So
Yes.
we're Caribbean girls. We understand how the heat goes. All right. So tell me about the So that's the sensual empowerment leaders. You're a holistic intimacy coach.
Right. So, as a holistic intimacy coach, that falls under orgasmic intelligence as well. So, that is more for geared towards couples
Mm-hmm.
and women specifically who have issues with low libido, intimacy with themselves or with their partners. So, teaching intimacy from a holistic perspective and not just intimacy on a sexual level, but
Mm-hmm.
intimacy, the different areas of intimacy.
And by holistic, it would include what? Diet, exercise, meditation. What would it include?
Being intimate with yourself, so taking time for yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it is on a spiritual level, understanding the importance of being intact with your spiritual side, your physical side as well. So it's looking at the emotional side of things as well, how you take time to be intimate with yourself. Because oftentimes when we speak about intimacy, we think about sexual intimacy. But
Yeah.
you know, there are different types of intimacy. And so we look at it on a holistic um, approach as opposed to now, of course, the sexual energy does play a part in it, but it's not just about sexual intimacy.
All right. So um, I'm imagining when people hear about holistic intimacy, yeah, as you said, they would think, so what? You're teaching people how to masturbate? Is that part of it?
Well, first and
Teaching them
foremost,
to
I do
accept?
not use Yeah,
You can use that term.
I don't use the term masturbate. I use the term solo cultivation because masturbation is really a very much a masculine, a masculine perspective because masturbation, in its true sense, is fondling oneself to have an orgasm, to ejaculate.
Mm-hmm.
But with solo cultivation, it's a more purposeful exploration of self. So
Mm-hmm.
discovering what makes you feel good,
Mm-hmm.
also discovering new erogenous spots along, and I'm not only speaking about the genitals, but also any part of your body, exploring the different things that can make you a climax.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal is to explore yourself, to have a blissful experience. And then if you do have an orgasm, then that's like the cherry on top. But orgasm is not ultimately the goal of solo cultivation, as
Okay.
opposed to masturbation, which orgasm or ejaculation
It's
is
the
the
goal.
pretty much the sole goal.
Mm-hmm.
With masturbation, really the only goal is to come.
Yeah.
But with solo
Very good.
cultivation, it's about exploring, discovery, nurturing as well, and cultivating.
Okay. And with the women's pelvic health coaching, specifically, what do you do there?
Right. So, as a women's pelvic health coach, I help women with, and interestingly enough, these different titles do overlap
The
at some
overlap,
point.
right? I
Yes.
understand. Yeah.
But with a women's pelvic health coach, I assist women with any pelvic dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
So if they have a pelvic pain, pain during sex, if they suffer from pelvic floor muscles that are not toned, or if they're too tight, or if their pelvis is out of alignment, if they have low libido as well, if they suffer from fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS,
Mm-hmm.
um, heavy bleeding and cramping during the cycle.
Yeah.
These things fall under. So as a women's pelvic health coach, also falls under the title as vaginal steam therapist as well.
Okay.
Yeah, where I facilitate vaginal steam therapy for women.
And I imagine these would include exercises as well as you would have devices that you would
Yes, we have tools. Yes,
assist.
the tools. Yes, the tools which specifically the yoni egg. That's the
Mm-hmm.
major tool that will be used. But then there are other tools that I can implement to help the woman, and that tool may be something as simple as her finger,
Mm-hmm.
or we can use a wand, a pelvic wand, or a yoni egg, or Benoit ball.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you supply these tools that you are listing? Do you have them for
Yeah,
sale?
yoni eggs. Yeah, we actually sell yoni eggs,
Mm-hmm.
and our yoni eggs are gemologist certified, meaning that they are certified to be authentic. So you know that whatever crystal it is, you know that that is the crystal that you're receiving. There are no additives. It hasn't gone through a process of, well, a processing where it's bleached or some kind of additive is
Mm-hmm.
implemented, like a dye or something like that. No
Mm-hmm.
radiation and stuff like that. So they're all gemologist certified, the Yoni eggs.
Okay. And you teach people how to skate?
Roller skate, yeah,
Yes.
roller skating. I used to roller skate as a young child. That's when I started roller skating. And when the skating died off for some 20 plus years, I stopped
Mm-hmm.
skating. And then I just started back just over a year and a half ago, and I haven't stopped since. It's an outlet. Is my personal therapy as well. It's good exercise. It's
Mm-hmm.
awesome for socializing. Met skaters
What was
all
the
over
trigger?
the
What was it so a year ago? So was it the pandemic? What triggered you to get back into it all of a sudden?
You mean starting back to skate?
18, yeah.
Yes. What happened was here in Barbados, they had a resurgence of skating.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw it started, my daughter, we traveled in, my daughter traveled last year, actually, in January last year, February last. I want to learn how to skate. So before she left Barbados, I knew the skating had started up in Barbados. But, just watching it from a distance, like, oh, they're skating again, kind of excited. But then when she said she wanted to learn to skate, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So while she was over there, I purchased her some skates, and she tried it over there without my assistance. So she had a bad fall, but it wasn't too bad. She was determined to learn to skate. So when she returned to Barbados, and I was coaching her, I then realized, well, I was coaching her. I was like, okay, well, I was explaining to her while she was on the skates. This is what you do and whatnot. But then I decided, let me put on the skates and
Mm-hmm.
demonstrate. And when I put on the skates, I realized I was still balancing. I was able to turn. I still had it. I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. It was like riding a bicycle actually.
Yeah.
And so I bought myself, well, I actually kept the skates that I bought for her, and I bought her a new pair. And then I've never stopped. I just have been skate. I skate up to 5 nights a week. On a good week, 7 nights a week. And yeah, it's just been a great outlet, therapy, and as I said, exercise. It's been like my personal getaway, taking me
Yeah.
back to childhood, and it is like cathartic. Cathartic, that's the word, yeah, in a sense, because it also took me back, interestingly enough, to my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
and reminded me of certain incidents that happened back then, and brought it in the forefront, and I had to deal with it. And
Oh,
again, through my the work that I do as a sensual empowerment leader,
mm,
as much as the work that I had done with myself, I had to then address certain things that had happened in my childhood that I'd had either forgotten or suppressed or put one
suppressed.
side. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so not was, it is a beautiful experience for me. Skating is a newfound love.
And now you teach others to skate. So, like
Yes.
me, I who have never skated in my life, how long you think I would take to learn?
You
I've never
oh,
skated.
I will get you rolling in less than half an hour.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious. Very,
And
very serious.
I've never ridden a bicycle ever, and I want to teach myself how to ride a bicycle. You
Okay,
compare
good.
you compare the two of them. Are they really the same? They're similar. You
They're
because
similar,
I
but
would imagine you're gonna get some falls.
yeah, but the thing is, with falling, I can teach. You can learn how to fall safely on roller skates.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if there's a way to fall safely on a
On the
bike.
bicycle.
I'm not a biker, so maybe there is, but I know for sure I can teach you how to safely fall on roller skates.
On the skate.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How long have you been doing all of this? Wearing all these hats, but how long did you get into this work?
Well, I'm a communication specialist. That's like my natural ability because I'm born under the sign of Gemini. Gemini are
Mm.
known as communicators.
Okay.
So under the Mercury sign, and it's also part of my qualifications as a communication specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And so my communications, that's the foundation of everything that I do. Human communication. So
Mm-hmm.
intra communication, that's communicating with self, and intercommunicating, communicating with others. And so on a professional basis, I've been a communication specialist for over 25 years.
Okay.
I have been a sensual empowerment leader with orgasmic intelligence and waves of bliss. Some This is 11. We celebrated our 11th anniversary actually this year. So
Mm-hmm.
11 years I have been doing that intimacy work and that sensual empowerment work with women and couples.
Mm-hmm. And how does one become qualified to do this kind of work?
I am extremely creative person. For someone to become qualified, I would definitely recommend that they have a solid knowledge and training, so qualification, course of study in the human anatomy and um, the human anatomy. Also, so whether it is biology training, massage therapy,
Mm-hmm.
also understanding sexual energy, how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So tantra, if you get training in tantra, that would be also highly recommended.
Okay.
And the pelvic, understanding the women's, if you're going to be working with women specifically or primarily, understanding not only the human anatomy and physiology, but also the pelvis,
Mm-hmm.
because that area is the womb space. I call it the womb space. So it's not just the physical bony structure, but that energetic space is not just the organs, so the uterus and the ovaries and whatnot, but the energetic space. So having some understanding in energy, how energy works as well. That's very important. And not just understanding, but actually doing training. So there are a number of training courses available out there. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of, but another one that's very important is somatic psychology as well, where
Right. I was
somatic
about to ask
psychology,
that. Mm-hmm.
yes, that marries the body and the mind because we tend to separate, but
Mm-hmm.
it brings the body and mind in to one in one, harmoniously bringing them to one because oftentimes we would regard our mind more than our body, and then in our body we store a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
So even with women using the yoni egg, it's just, you insert the yoni egg into the vaginal canal and you do a combination of exercises. I call them breath, movement, Kegel combo,
Mm-hmm.
and just inserting the egg because we have reflexology points within the vaginal canal, the same way we have reflexology points in our eyes, the palms of our hands, the bottom of our feet, our face and tongue. You have also in the vaginal canal. So then you are targeting or manipulating certain major organs in the body, which may be holding trauma. And then when that is released, understanding how to deal with a person when they're going through a release of some trauma or if it's brought to the surface. So having a good understanding of psychology as well is very important. So it's presently there is no one training you can go to
Mm-hmm.
become a central empowerment leader, but I trust like within as my I have 11 years experience, but as it goes on, I am in the process of creating a course of study that will help you become qualified as a sensual empowerment coach.
Mm-hmm. Do you spoke about trauma, and we go through things and we find ways of suppressing them, right? Do you think that this is one of the things that hinders, like for women who have never experienced orgasm, and they have tried, many different things, whether it's different positions, different techniques. Um, how do you guide that woman? Like, let's say she experienced rape or sexual abuse as a young girl, and she has all of this pent up, this anger, this resentment towards men, and for that reason, she's unable to have a pleasant sexual experience with a man. How do you guide a woman like that? How do you get her to the point where she can, resolve those issues and start experiencing pleasure?
Okay, well, first, definitely ascertaining from her
Mm-hmm.
whether she acknowledges her trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing,
Okay.
acknowledgement. And then we explore where she's at
Mm-hmm.
in that process, in that healing. I say healing process. So has she actually started healing, or she's had the traumatic experience and has she suppressed it? So first ascertaining where she's at. And then for every woman it's different. Come on, every single woman is different. I cannot say that I have had two clients who have experienced sexual trauma that I take them both through the exact same coaching process. There may be
Mm-hmm.
similarities, but every woman is different. Every woman progresses differently. Every woman's journey is different.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very much tailor made and customized
Customize.
per person. However, though, I would take them through first acknowledging, let's go into the root of it. Do they acknowledge what happened? What have they done since it has happened?
Mm-hmm.
Find out how it still affects them. And then we go through the process of them understanding that it's not their fault. So laying aside the self blame and then taking them through a process of learning to love themselves
Yeah.
again, finding that fierce love for themselves, which is the foundation upon which we're going to build every single other step of the
Mm-hmm.
healing journey.
Let's take a woman who has had, let's say, a number of children, five, six children. She's in her 40s, 50s, and having trouble, enjoying sexual intercourse, or feeling inadequate in terms of pleasing her partner. What are some of the things that are available for someone like that?
Well, first thing is she pleasing herself? It's all fine and good to say pleasing her partner, but is she pleasing herself? Because many women we tend to give our power away and expect our partner to please us.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, we need to be able to guide our partner how
Okay.
we like to be pleased.
Mm-hmm.
So first, does she know how to please herself? What makes her feel good? What helps her become aroused? What she needs to climax?
Mm-hmm.
What she needs to feel relaxed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the first thing. Does she understand her sexual needs? Is she fulfilling her sexual needs based on past trauma or how an ex used to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I invite them to again explore themselves and learn a technique which I call self own self touch, sorry, own touch, where
Mm-hmm.
you're touching yourself. So not just touching yourself, but you're looking at the pressure on which you're applying to your skin. How does it feel? So it's not how, as I said, an ex-lover used to touch you, but how you like to be feel. So it's a journey, which now, if they do have a partner, I invite the partner in after a point because I always want women to recognize that this healing journey is for you first and foremost, and then everyone else will benefit. It's like a ripple effect. So then I would invite the partner once we've gone through a few sessions and bring in the partner then now to continue the journey. So when that partner comes in, we then now have to start to find out how has that partner been pleasing the woman, what they do together, and encourage them to create a what we refer to as a sex menu. What each of them likes, what each of them definitely like, what's a no, we're not ever going to do,
Mm-hmm.
and what each of them is possibly open to.
Mm-hmm. So
So creating
establishing
safe
boundaries.
spaces,
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely one place, establishing boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, which starts with self
Yeah.
first, and then when the partners come together. So like things like a safe word, having a safe word.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do you offer anything that could help men who have erectile dysfunction or premature
Oh yeah.
ejaculation?
Yes, definitely work with men as well too, but not tools, but techniques. I have,
Techniques. Okay.
yes, techniques that I would take men through to help them with either we have the we have for the women we have the yoni breathing, and for the men we have lingam flexing. So that's one thing. There's
What's that?
also the lingam flexing is a technique which helps men to condition their pelvic floor muscles
Mm-hmm.
and also to help with premature ejaculation, to help them lengthen their stamina
Mm-hmm.
and increase their stamina, and also to increase the length of time that they will stay erect. So if they find that they're having issues, blockages, so it's a technique that works with energy and also on the physical level.
And these would be like techniques or exercises that the men would do daily, or
Yes, daily,
would-
definitely daily.
daily
Yeah,
exercises. And
yes.
do you work with clients remotely, like online, or do they have to come in to see you?
Oh no, I work
Fly
online.
into
So actually
Barbados?
for orgasm. Well, hey, I do have some that fly to Barbados for orgasmic intelligence, especially for orgasmic intelligence. I do have clients who come into Barbados for orgasmic intelligence, and I also work online with clients with
Mhm.
under the orgasmic intelligence brand.
Okay.
So I do both online, they fly in, and then I do one-on-one as well. So with orgasmic intelligence, we have online training, we have the online coaching as well
Let me put up the banner so those who are interested. So it's orgasmic, O R
with a
G
K.
G A S M I K,
Yes, intelligence,
orgasmic
correct.
intelligence. So how would they reach out to you, by email first or what?
Yeah, they
Or
can send
so
an
it's a
email to
website? A website?
par- pardon?
Is orgasmic intelligence, is that a website? They can reach you through the website?
They can, yeah, or they can send me an email to orgasmicintelligence@gmail.com.
Okay, so let me put that. So it's orgasmic
Mm,
intelligence
at gmail.com.
gmail.com. To book a session. Okay, so let me have this.
Mm.
So did I get it right? Orgasmic intelligence. Spell it
You can
right?
also find yes, you can also find orgasmic intelligence on IG,
Mm,
YouTube, and the Facebook. So they
okay.
can go online as well.
So wherever in the world you are, if you need help with, if you're a woman and you need help with, getting to know yourself, getting to become intimate with yourself, and understanding how to please yourself as well as please your partner. If you're a man and you want to do the same thing, you can reach out to Katrina at Orgasmic Intelligence. So at this point, we're going to share some pics with our viewers. And Katrina, as we go through the pics, I just want you to explain to us what we're seeing, and give us some insights on what you do. All right.
Okay, yeah, so here I am
Mm,
about to get started as some massage therapy. So working with the client here, doing, I offer deep tissue, Swedish massage, hot stones massage, and also do this somatic psychology, which
mhm.
is, sorry, the emotional release massage, which is based in somatic psychology.
Okay. So this would be the therapy room. What do you call this room?
Yeah, this is one of the
Massage
therapy
room,
rooms.
therapy room. All right. So this says herbal blend womb wellness. What is this?
Yeah, so this is for the vaginal steam therapy. We have three major blends. This is the womb wellness blend, which is for general womb wellness. And so women who suffer from heavy bleeding and cramping during this cycle, who suffer from like if they have flare-ups, if they have so that's like infection flare-ups, if they have yeast infection as well, if
Mm-hmm.
they're experiencing some kind of vaginal dryness, this is the blend that I would recommend. But women who suffer from fibroids, we also have a special blend for them. It's called fibroid free. And then we have blends for women who suffer with PCOS, endometriosis, adenomyosis as well. So
Mm-hmm.
we have blends, and then if we have someone who is, ready to have experiencing issues with fertility, then we also have blends for that as well too to help increase the fertility. But yoni steaming on a whole helps to increase fertility. So the wellness blend would help with that. But then if you have a client who is having major challenges, then we will have add additional herbs which will help with the for conception. So I've had women. I had one client in particular who have had she had nine miscarriages, and
Whoa.
she came, yeah, so she was at her wit's end, and she came and she had the vaginal steam, and she got pregnant, and now she's pregnant again, second time around.
Wow.
So yes, and so I've had many success stories like that with women who've been having challenges. So the herbs uh, are exported, but not. I haven't sent any through the mail. They're usually exported through clients coming in and getting, or knowing someone who's coming to Barbados, and then
Oh,
that person,
getting them
yeah,
home.
will bring it in for them. Yes.
And so this is the steam. And is it that you would steam every day, once a day, or just until the
So
matter is resolved?
right. So the vaginal steaming is. I recommend that if you're going to go and have a vaginal steam done, that you go to someone who is experienced, who's an experienced V-steam therapist, or and/or qualified be steam therapist, because vaginal steaming is not recommended daily unless you are experiencing a particular disease. So, like fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS are the
Oh,
ones that come to mind where you can steam on a daily basis. And then there's specific herbs that you use. I recommend if you just have heavy bleeding and cramping that is not associated with fibroids or some other type of disease, then you can safely be steam anywhere from twice a month, so 3 to 10 days before or after your period, or
okay.
you can be steam up to once a week. But I don't like putting this information out there without knowing the conditions of the
Right.
individual, because
So,
every individual is different.
and definitely need guidance. Can these herbs
Yeah.
be these herbs can you can drink them, right? So like if
Yeah,
you get
yeah, many of the herbs are also edible, but then there's some herbs that are on the V steam that will be put in the V
in the
steam that would not recommend that you drink.
okay. So this
Yeah,
particular thing is for steaming. Because I
for
know I'm
vaginal
looking at
steaming.
some of the herbs. I know some of them can
Hmm.
be you can ingest them.
Yes, yes.
So when you do the vaginal steam, would you expect to see expectoration? You'd expect matter to be coming out
Oh no,
in
it's not. No, you're thinking of yoni pearls. And yoni pearls, that's something I do not recommend. I do not recommend use of yoni pearls. Yoni pearls are very popular now.
mm-hmm,
They're like little sachets of what's supposed to be herbs,
mm-hmm,
and women have been inserting them into the vaginal canal and keeping them in there inserted for up to 72 hours. And
mm-hmm,
then when they remove it, you will see the pictures of all this, gook and matter all
mm-hmm,
plastered around and whatnot. And oftentimes, what that white stuff you're seeing is actually the body's white blood cells attacking this foreign object in
mm-hmm,
the vaginal canal.
mm-hmm.
So yes, because it's herbs are for healing, but the vaginal canal is not meant to cleanse that severely.
Mm-hmm.
Yoni pearls are a very severe method, which I do not recommend. Anything having to do with the vaginal canal, with the womb space, I always recommend gentle. I always
Mm-hmm.
recommend gradual, because this is your sacred space. This is the portal through which all life comes, uh,
Mm-hmm.
whether by choice or other ways. And when I speak about the portal through which life comes, I'm not only talking about babies, but where you just, where your ideas are birthed, where your creativity is fostered. So I don't recommend yoni pearls, but vaginal steaming, where that is definitely a more gentle way of cleansing and attacking diseases, I highly recommend. So
So,
with a vaginal steam, you wouldn't see that kind of gook coming out of you. What you may happen is like if you have an infection, you might see more of that infection coming out. So if you have, let's say, a Bartholin cyst, or if you have an infection, if you have some kind of cyst on your ovaries, so PCOS, or just an odd cyst, you might see that drainage, but you're
oh,
not going to see.
that's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes, yes.
Because I'm thinking, having these diseases, and how would they be resolved? I'm thinking they would have to drain out in some way, right? So that's what I meant when I talked about expectoration.
Okay, right. Yeah,
After
but
the
it's not, yeah, yeah, but sometimes it may not even be a drain. It may just be the herbs, what they do, the herbs along with the the steam along with the medicinal properties of the herbs rise into
Mhm.
the vaginal canal, and then it's diffused into the through the bloodstream and the tissues of the vaginal canal, which tissue
Oh,
of the vaginal canal is actually one of the fastest ways to have something absorbed through the body.
yeah,
So then it gets into the bloodstream, and that can bring about healing with the
healing.
organs as well too. So it may not be a case where something is released. You
Okay,
may find though that you become more
or it's
lubricant,
absorbed. Hmm.
and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. What are these beautiful things?
So these are the yoni eggs. So these are the different types of yoni eggs. Yoni eggs can be made of different crystals that are safe for insertion into the vaginal canal. Can be made of glass as well as stainless steel. And so yoni eggs are inserted into the vaginal canal, and you do a combination of exercises, which I refer to as breast kegel movement combo,
Mm-hmm.
and you do these exercises which help to bring about vaginal toning and agility. It helps women with heavy bleeding and cramping during the cycle, in many cases eliminating, significantly reducing the number of days they bleed, the amount of blood, can stop the cramping altogether, the clots. I used to, before I started doing this kind of work, I used to suffer with heavy bleeding and cramping for anywhere from 10 to 14 days a month.
Mm-hmm.
And through use of yoni eggs and other womb wellness modalities, I was able to reduce myself when I had a period to 3 days. So I went from 14 to 10 to 7 to 5 to 3 days. And
Oh,
I am now fully,
from
fully
14.
menopausal. Yeah, yeah. I used to have
Oh,
some
wow.
really heavy periods. I mean, blood, yeah, like something else. And clots as big as my fist. And I started using yoni eggs to address that, but then using yoni eggs, it just transformed my life. I started my business, but yoni eggs are something that I would recommend for any and every woman. And it's not anything that is the eggs. It doesn't release anything to the vaginal canal, so it's not like a boric acid tablet or
Mm-hmm.
like yoni pearls or anything like that. It's just
Mm-hmm.
the crystal, which has metaphysical properties, yes,
Yes.
but it's the size, the weight, the shape of the egg. You doing the exercises. That's what helps to bring about the changes that you will see. Changes on an energetic level, on a physical level, on a spiritual level.
So you would insert one egg at a time?
You insert one egg. I always recommend that women start with the medium-sized egg
Yeah.
as opposed to the small or the large. You will see in some circles on the internet, they speak about starting with a large egg and then graduate down to the smallest egg. But I don't recommend beginners starting with a large or small egg because the whole point of inserting the egg is to be able to manipulate the egg in the vaginal canal. So you're engaging your pelvic floor muscles, the vaginal tissues as well. And so you have to engage the muscle. So you don't want that. You have to, with a small egg, you have to squeeze so tight, which now can cause your pelvic floor muscles to become hypertonic, meaning that the toning is too tight, which can lead to pelvic dysfunction. And then you insert it on the other flip side, you can insert an egg, a large egg, and because of that sudden increase in weight, you can go into pelvic shock. So you don't walk into the
Oh.
gym and pick up the 100-pound dumbbell
Oh,
and
okay.
start arm curling. No, you start with lightweight and you build up. So that's why I recommend you start with one egg, the medium sized egg, and from there you can uh, months of consistent work with that one egg. Then you can graduate to use of two eggs, or you can use light weights to add onto the string of a drilled yoni egg.
Hmm. So you have drilled eggs and undrilled.
Undrilled eggs, yeah. So drilled eggs, as I mentioned, you can string them,
Yeah.
and when you insert the egg into the vaginal canal, the string will hang out of the vulva like a tampon. So
Right.
as a beginner, if you're unable to manipulate your vaginal muscles to push the egg out, you can then just gently pull on the on the string, sorry, to remove. And then for advanced work, you can tie light weights onto the string and where you have the added resistance. The non-drilled eggs carry no holes, so you can't string any egg string. You can't string it. However, you still can do some deep work with the undrilled egg. And some women prefer the undrilled eggs because they don't like the hole. So
Yeah.
these are maybe women who are more prone to infection. So they
Infection.
don't want anything. They just want the solid egg and they do the work. And also it can be for women who just feel confident working with a non-drill egg. So I have some
Doesn't
beginners who don't want a non-drill egg, and then I have some beginners who are like, yeah, I want that non-drill egg because I'm confident in my abilities.
does it matter which orientation the egg is? Like the bigger part must be inserted or the smaller part inserted
Well,
first?
I recommend inserting the bigger part first, but
Mm.
then there's some who will insert it. But once, however, when it's inserted, when you start to the muscles, the vaginal muscles, the pelvic floor muscles start to work with it, the egg is going to go in any which direction. But I
Oh.
recommend the inserting with the bigger end first because of the shape of the egg. So then you have the bigger end, and then it's easier for the vaginal canal to wrap itself around to insert it,
And how
to
long do
slip it
you
in, I should
keep
say.
the egg at a
You
time?
can keep the egg into from 5 minutes up to however long you want to keep it in it. But remember that the that womb space is connected to the deepest parts of your core. The vaginal muscles, they're muscles, so they can release the egg.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if you're holding a heavy bag and you
Mm-hmm.
need to put down that bag to
Oh.
rest for a bit, or you need to switch it to the other hand, that can happen with the yoni egg as well, where your vaginal muscles just release the egg. So you can work. I highly recommend that you do at least 5 to 15 minutes of exercises every day, every other day. And if you feel confident, you can walk around with the egg in afterwards for however long it stays in or when you're ready to remove it.
How do you keep it clean?
Well, when you first purchase the egg, I always recommend that you sanitize it, and you sanitize it by taking the egg, a small pot, water, and put all three of those together, and then you put that onto the stove and allow it to come to a boil.
Mm-hmm.
And when it boils, let it boil for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then you're going to remove the egg and let it dry on its own. So that's the initial sanitizing. After use, you do not need to boil the egg again unless let's say the egg is inserted when your period starts, or if you have the egg stored for an extended period of time, or if it touches a dirty surface. So if it goes on, let's say it drops on the floor or some other
Mhm.
dirty surface, or it happens unfortunately to drop in the toilet, then I recommend that you sanitize it by boiling again. But generally after use, you can just rinse it with warm water, not hot water. Please don't put boiling water over your yoni egg, because the sudden change can cause it to crack depending on the type of crystal that it is. So you
Okay.
can just use warm water, but no soap or no additives. Remember, these tools are inserted into the most sacred part of your anatomy. So you don't want additives, like you don't want soap and antibacterial stuff, which can offset your pH and then cause a yeast infection or some kind, or BV, or some kind of
Right.
imbalance.
Yeah. Okay. And so, who are these persons now? They have just had their massage.
Oh yeah, so this is a couple. So we do group massages, we do couples massages, or we do individuals. So we do mobile, so we actually go to the space wherever you're at, and we do the massages.
Okay. Normally, these massages take how long?
Oh, the lease is 30 minutes, and then 30 minutes and up.
All right. So, tell us about what's happening here.
All right, so this was a presentation at UE WAND, which is part of the UE Open Campus. This was a lecture on where I was spreading, bringing to the public in this forum about orgasmic intelligence, and I took them through the seven, I see orgasmic intelligence as the 11th intelligence. So I was
Hmm.
taking them through how all the other types of intelligence are incorporated into orgasmic intelligence. So this was a very well attended forum, and it was a great success on the UE WAND,
Okay.
women's. I can't remember what the WAND stands for, but they deal with women issues in education under the UE Open Campus.
What is the response that you get from the general public, when they hear about what you do?
I get different responses. I would get a response like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know there was someone here in Barbados doing that," and I get a new client. And then I would get some, like, my, eye rolls and nose turned up, and uh,
Yeah.
saying like, "Oh my gosh, that's the worst possible thing." And then there are people who are curious, like, "What's that? You've
Yeah.
piqued my interest. Tell me more." So I get various responses.
Oh, I meant to ask you when you were talking about the egg. So, can virgins use the egg? Do they need the egg? Is it just for women who are sexually active?
It's for women, not necessarily women who are just sexually active, because there are women who will, young women who will have heavy bleeding and cramping during this cycle. There are women who have suffering from fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS from a very young age, and so they, even before becoming sexually active, they can definitely start to use the yoni egg. If a young woman under the age of 16, then definitely would need parental consent to work
Hmm.
with her. Yeah.
Would using the egg interfere with the integrity of the virgin state for those who are concerned about that?
The virgin state. And
Yes, the
yeah, for me,
physical
that's a
integrity.
concept. I know that's a concept that,
You
the
have
jury is
persons
still
who
out
are
of.
very rigorous about those things.
I
So,
know, I know. And that's usually heavily based in
mm,
religion, and
and patriarchy, yeah.
religious dogmas, actually. Let me just put it straight.
Yeah.
Reality and religious dogmas.
Clear it up for us.
Well, in reality, a finger can compromise the that state.
Mm-hmm.
Riding a horse
Mm-hmm.
can compromise that state. So that's just a societal and very much a masculine societal
Patriarchy. Yes.
concept. Yeah, definitely the patriarchy that has been perpetuated. But in reality, a woman can regain her virginity at any point in her life. At any
Really,
point in
she
her life,
can explain to me how
of
that would
course,
be done.
because virginity is a state of, and I don't want to use the word purity because when you think purity, but a state of understanding your power within, a state of usurping your power within,
Are you
understanding.
saying so? Is it that it doesn't really have anything to do with the hymen?
No, that's
Okay.
just no, 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 definitely not,
Okay.
definitely not, definitely not.
Who are these pretty ladies?
Okay, that's actually me on the right hand side. That's when
Mm.
I was actually completed my vaginal steam
Mm.
therapy training. Yes, and that was the trainer, the phenomenal Miss Tracy. She is the CEO of. Oh, she wears so many hats, but she actually I brought her to Barbados to offer the training here. Some 5+ years ago.
Oh, okay.
So that was at the end of the training when I was awarded my certification. And so this is actually my daughter and I. We were doing a V-steam together, where we
Oh.
were, yeah. So I introduced my daughter to V-steaming when I first received my certification. So my V-steaming started when I received my certification. I didn't just start offering the service. I started to do V-steaming for on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, my daughter, and then I offer it to friends and close family and whatnot. And so we did a photo shoot where I was introducing a special called the Bestie V-Steam Bestie
Mm-hmm.
V-Steam special, where I was encouraging women in twos to come, or threes or more,
Mm-hmm.
and come and do V-Steaming together.
Okay. So the is that a box? Is it
A
that's for
V-Steam
the
pot. It's called a V-Steam pot.
okay. So
Hmm.
the pot is placed inside and then you sit on top of it.
Yeah, so the box, the what you see, the V-Steam pot, that's the casing, and then the herbs are inside in a,
Inside.
yeah, what we call like a steamer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there are different types. So for some women, it may be a no heat be steam, where there is no additional heat being generated. So it just, you boil the water and you fuse the herbs and they sit over that. So that you call that a no steam. And that's
Mm-hmm.
used for some women who are prone to spontaneous bleeding and other pelvic dysfunction. And then there is the heated one where there's constantly heating, and that's like in a crock pot where this heat is constantly going throughout the entire treatment.
I imagine there's a threat of scalding if you don't know what you're
There,
doing.
that's why that's yeah. If you are going to, that's why I highly recommend that you go to a vaginal steam therapist who is qualified, who is well experienced, and if you're going to be doing it at home, that you know what you're doing, because on the internet, you will see stuff like, oh, woman scald from V steaming,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But they don't give you details. You can scald yourself ironing your clothes.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can burn yourself if you
OMG.
get in your car and your seatbelt is too hot in the sun and you
Yeah.
pull it across.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
they just look for ways to try to discredit a
Right.
lot of the indigenous healing modalities, but without giving the full backstory.
Yeah.
So of course there's heat involved, so you can, it's a possibility of scalding, but that's
Yeah.
why it's very important that you you follow instructions. If you like, well, I don't do it now, but I used to offer training in V-steaming for yourself. But no, the training is just for vaginal steam therapy. So if you want to do the V-steaming for yourself, you can come and do the vaginal steam therapy. And then also then later on, if you want to turn it into business, you can.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely just make sure that you follow instructions. And if
Right.
you're going to a vaginal steam therapist, that there's someone who is experienced and or qualified.
You mentioned indigenous practices. To your knowledge, how far does this practice go back? The V steaming, the yoni eggs. Give us some history of it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, from the beginning of time, pretty much women have been using these modalities for healing. In India, even in India, like here in the West, you very few gynecologists or doctors would recommend vaginal steaming. But in India, gynecologists recommend vaginal steaming for certain diseases. So
Mm-hmm.
in India is very much entrenched in the culture where it is seen as a credible healing modality for women.
Yes.
So then in other cultures on the continent Africa, even in South America, where in Suriname, even some of the islands. I remember when I was younger. I remember I used to see my grandmother. She would have that like kind of like a bedpan, and she would put some hot water and herbs, and she would sit down. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know, but when I started to do V-steaming, when I did the training, that image came back to my mind. I was like, oh wait, my grandmother used to do that. That was my paternal grandmother.
Yeah.
And I remember, once I was looking to see, and she was like, "Oh, close the door." The old people. Back
Yeah.
then they were very private, never wanted. But that was something that I was introduced to before I even knew myself.
Right.
And so, this path, oftentimes the things that I'm doing in this path, I've realized that I was introduced to at a very young age. And back then I didn't know. Then it all made sense. Some
Right. I
years
see.
later.
I see the model here of the female reproductive system. Well, at least the
Or the pelvic. Yeah,
external
that's the
part.
pelvic. Yeah,
External.
that's the pelvis.
Mm-hmm.
And the with the pelvic floor muscles, the bony structure, and then showing the structure of the vulva as well.
Mm-hmm. You know
Yeah.
what? One of the things that really amazed me over the years as a teacher, right, in dealing with kids as well as their parents, I've always been amazed as to how many persons have misconceptions regarding the female anatomy of the pelvic area. How many persons actually believe that women pee through their vagina? And so, talking to kids, sometimes they say things like they think babies come out of you pull out the baby. They have all of these crazy notions, and it's not just the kids. I'm telling you, adults, a lot of adults I've encountered have these misconceptions. So it's very important for us to use models like these and to show persons, because we assume that people know these things, but they actually don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They
they
don't.
actually don't. and
Mm-hmm.
and it ties into also these misconceptions about the female anatomy, that she's dirty, she's cursed, her menstrual cycle is because she's being punished. All of these misconceptions, I think we need, as a teacher, I personally see it as my duty to clarify these things. Do you feel like the same kind of calling in terms of um
Yeah, that's
teaching?
definitely that's why I do the work that I do. That's why I
Yeah.
do the work that I do to um to bust the myth
Mm-hmm.
and bring the information to young girls, grown women,
And to
couples,
men.
just humans
Yeah,
alike.
humans.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yes.
definitely need to know, about ourselves, because
Hmm.
even some very basic things we don't know. All
Very
right. So
true.
this
Very true.
is at school. You went to a school.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Well, that was before COVID. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't ventured back out to the schools since COVID, but I used to go to schools and do something called a presentation called Seeds of Self-Respect, where
Mm-hmm.
tying in with what you spoke about, speaking about information, understanding, getting children to understand their sexual energy, the
Mm-hmm.
importance of self-respect and whatnot. So those sessions used to be very interactive, very,
Yes.
very interactive.
With these are adolescents.
Yes. And I also did primary school as well.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So this image is not so. It's kind of tiny,
Right. Yeah. So
but it's
that's
the
just a
same.
display. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's the display at because I do expos as well, where we go and interact with the public and also sell the products.
Okay. All right. So when you were a little girl in Barbados running up and down, what did you imagine yourself to become? I'm sure it was not what you're doing now. So,
I I honestly, the thing about it is that when I started to do this work, a school friend of mine, we went to primary school together. I remember she told me, Katrina, you know, I remember when I we were younger, you were telling me about the birds and the bees and whatnot. You helped me understand things that my parents were telling me, but I couldn't understand it. And the way you said it, it just made so much sense.
mhm,
And that's when for me I was like, clearly this is my calling. But obviously as a girl, I want to be everything. I want to be a vet. I want to be a
mhm,
doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I went through everything. I want to be an engineer, everything. But when I found my calling, some 11 plus, actually it was more than 11, it was 14 years ago, 15 years ago,
mhm.
when I found my calling. And yeah, yeah, it just felt right in my soul. But
Yeah.
growing up, no, I had no idea.
I know for like persons who are gynecologists, for example, especially male gynecologists, right?
Hmm.
Uh, the average man would think, oh, that's the dream job of any man, for to go and see 10, 20 women every day, just open wide for you. They would think, oh, that's the dream job. But I'm sure for the gynecologist, especially one that has been in practice for many years, I'm pretty sure that's not necessarily the case. So there are misconceptions that we have, especially with jobs relating to, the body and intercourse and intimacy. What would you say are the misconceptions that persons would have about your job? But I know you don't
Yeah,
like
it's just about sex.
the job. Yeah.
It's just about sex. I think it's just about sex. I think
Yeah.
that's it. It's just about sex.
And definitely it is not,
No,
as you said, it's
definitely.
learning about
Mm,
yourself, learning about, your needs and how to please yourself and be comfortable with yourself. Is it
yes.
something you would encourage your daughter to do, your nieces, your nephew? Is it something a male would fit well into doing?
Yeah, definitely. It's gender neutral. Definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I would encourage anyone who's genuinely interested because it has the potential to be very lucrative, like
Hmm.
financially. But people in the Caribbean especially do not value the service.
Hmm.
But if you can break into the US, UK, Canadian markets,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. But it's definitely something that you have to see as a calling.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know our men in particular, they tend to, shy away from getting this kind of treatment. They see it as quackery, or they see it as, or they're just embarrassed to come forward and say, hey, I have a problem, I need some help. They're in denial, or they will more run for some some concoction or some stone or some whatever it is, rather than, just humbly yourself, because it takes humility.
Hmm.
It takes
And it
humility.
takes time. It takes
Yeah,
time as well because we live in a what we call a microwave society where everybody expects everything
quick
to be instant.
fix. Yeah, quick
You know,
fix.
yeah, quick fixes. Yeah,
Well, for
yeah.
me, I am I'm very pleased that you're doing this work. I think it's very needed. It's empowerment for women and men, but particularly for women, because so much of so much pressure falls on us, and our bodies are taxed, overtaxed, and it's very important that we come to terms with ourselves and be comfortable with ourselves and learn even to accept that we are worthy of pleasure. You have some women who they think they're there, especially the deeply religious women. They have bought into this notion that they are here to please men and their pleasure isn't important.
Yeah,
There are women who
yeah.
believe that.
I even go beyond the word pleasure. I say bliss,
Bliss.
bliss, because sometimes pleasure can be temporary. Pleasure can also cause harm.
Explain
Feel
what you
good, but
mean.
then because just think about it, when you think that you are having sex for pleasure because it feels good, but then that partner is not right for you,
Mm-hmm.
or you go through multiple partners because the intercourse helps you to suppress or get away from something that you need to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Same like with drugs,
Yeah.
ecstasy and those hard drugs. They give you that euphoric feeling, but then they're causing harm to the body.
Mm-hmm.
So bliss, on the other hand, bliss is healing, bliss is lasting.
Mm-hmm.
So I go right now, I say
With
healing through
bliss.
bliss as
Right.
opposed to, yeah, pleasure.
And I
So
absolutely love the name orgasmic intelligence. I absolutely love it.
thank you.
Katrina, I want to thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank
You've
you.
opened a lot of persons' eyes. I know when I first encountered you a couple years ago, I was saying, "What? This is something people do?" you know. I personally was, and I consider myself educated and open minded and all of that. And it took me by surprise, that someone does this for a living. But I'm happy that you do, because it is empowering and it is very much needed. So thank you again for your time,
Thank you. Thank you for
as
having me, Kamal.
fellow Caribbean girl. Hope you don't mind me calling you girl, but it's just our way, right?
I know Jamaican. I know.
All right. So thank you, and viewers, thank you again for joining us. And as usual, we'll be coming again with other very interesting guests. So I'll see you in the next video.